Hey everybody, Victor here, and for today I have a nation guide for Orissa. Now before I get into the guide itself, I did want to say thank you all for being patient with me, because I know my schedule lately on releasing videos has been wonky as of late. This is because I got sick, and then finally after I recovered from that, I had a massive family emergency that was an absolute train wreck. I'll leave a bit of an explanation below in a comment because yeah, it's pretty bad. But I don't want to get into it in the video itself, so let's go ahead and begin with a nation guide for Orissa. And as per usual with this channel, the best place to start any guide is of course in the estates and privileges. Now if you've seen my guides before, most of this is going to seem pretty stock standard to you, with a couple of exceptions because they're unique privileges to being a Hindu tag in India, and I'll get to those in a second. However, if you're new to this channel, welcome. Let's briefly talk about those stock standard ones so you can follow along and have the strongest possible start for your game too. First of which, you're going to grant all of the monarch generators. That's the military power, admin power, diplo power. These are just way too useful to try and save crown land for. Crown land is not that important, monarch power absolutely is. So go ahead and grant them, you'll fix the crown land soon. Speaking of which, grant the supremacy over the crown. That'll give you 10% loyalty equilibrium in all of your estates, meaning you'll be able to hit that 50% threshold in all of them that much easier. So grant this, because that'll give you the 50% easier, which will let you seize more crown land, which will fix your crown land problem that you have because you granted these estates. Lastly, grant the subject ones. This is the subject rights or strong duchies, as well as the integration policy here, because these two in combination will let you expand faster, with less aggressive expansion, with more allies than you would in almost any other situation. Other than that, just get yourself to 50% using whatever else you happen to want, and you'll be fine. Now let's talk about those 4 Hindu-Indian privileges that are only available to them, because all of them are really strong, with one of them being a little bit more niche, and being aware of what they are and why you want to have them will definitely make your game a bit better. The first of which here is this Jane's Clerical class. This will give you a 5% reduction in development cost. Now, most people are going to be stacking development cost anyway, so that's fantastic. Just take this, you're good to go. For those of you who are thinking you want to play tall, so you don't necessarily want to be deving that much, you have to be aware you're in India, which means you're going to have to develop at least Renaissance and printing press on your own anyway, and most likely, unless you somehow race to the New World, colonialism as well. So you're going to have to be developing a lot of institutions. That's 3 provinces you're going to have to develop up till about 35 development, which is almost prohibitively expensive. So any discount you can get, 5%, 10%, whatever, is absolutely worth it. So grant this now, it'll save you monarch points, probably about a tech's worth of points in total after 3 institutions. Next, we have this levy war contributions. A lot of people don't seem to take this in multiplayers, and I really don't understand why. That war taxes reduction, while that might not seem like a lot, by reducing this down to 1, especially early game, 15% land maintenance only at war does not sound like a lot, but it does save you your economy when you're replenishing your troops, and later on in the game, when you have 200 stack armies running around, it is absolutely worthwhile to be able to turn this on and not sacrifice a bunch of military power. So it is worthwhile in the long run. Early on, however, that monthly war exhaustion will save you, because you're going to be spending about 20 years in the early game fighting almost constantly. So having that consistently throughout wars ticking down will help save you from having too much war exhaustion, which is causing unrest, which will cause you to shatter. So granting this will absolutely be worth it the entire game. The next one, which is a bit more niche of a policy, is right here, conscientious objections. Now, most people don't want to reduce their manpower for anything. 10% national manpower is a huge price to pay for this, for yearly corruption, which most people don't even have corruption being generated. However, if you're like me and you're playing outside of Europe, it is really, really common for you to have unbalanced research because you're having to dev up, expand, pay for coring cost, annex vassals, whatever it happens to be, and I usually end up falling behind in diplo power, which means my diplo tech, which doesn't really matter that much, ends up falling behind, which gives me normal yearly corruption being increased. In that instance, this will help save your economy in exchange for 10% manpower, which, yes, hurts, but it gives you an option to pick between which one you think is more dangerous to you, corruption or manpower. So just make your call and just be aware that this exists if you happen to need it. Now, the last two privileges are kind of linked together, one of which you can get later because it's not really useful until later. The first one of which, however, is this established Rajput regiments. This gives you access to the Rajput unit. The Rajput unit costs a little bit more to recruit. It costs you an extra 5 ducats to recruit. However, it has 5% increased morale. It is a special unit, and you get it based on how much crown land they happen to have. The other privilege that they can grant towards those unit, however, is 5% discipline and 10% increased fire damage given. So they do more damage and have more discipline, which increases the amount of damage that they do. These two privileges are really strong, one of which gives you an advantage in units early on, though not necessarily worth it at this stage. And the other one will make it so you have very, very powerful units as shock troops later on in the game. So once you're done using vassals to expand closer to imperialism, you'll be able to use the Rajput regiments to massively swarm your enemy where they will not survive. You will have the advantage in almost every war you have late game if you grant this privilege and the other one. Early on, this can be useful. However, with only 2 of them, not quite as much, but once you expand a bit more, it will definitely help. With all of that being said, we are now done talking about the estates and privileges. Now let's talk about setting up your military. The first thing you're going to do is take your 2 navy stacks, both your cogs and your light ships, merge them together, assign them any admiral, doesn't matter if he's good or not, and send him out into the Ganges Delta. Next, you're going to take your army. You're going to take your ruler. He's going to be a general at the start and a really good one. So go ahead and assign him to your army and move him up to the Bengali border. If it's not obvious, you're about to make Bengal have a very, very bad day. And then lastly, you're going to take your free company here and you're going to hire them here along the Bengali border as well. Now, the reason you are hiring the free company and the admiral are simple. Your first mission in your entire game is going to be to recruit 3 army units, which the free company is 4, and an admiral. By doing this, you get claims both on Andhra down here, but also pretty much along the entire Bengalese coast, except for this province right here. By doing it with the free company, if you couldn't tell, they'll be done before the end of the month, which means before you'd even be able to attack Bengal, you'll have the claims. This is very important. Bengal will usually get 1 ally within about a month to a month and a week, which means usually you'll be able to attack them before they have an ally. This is very important because if you attack them without an ally, you are going to win that fight. Period. You are going to win every single time. So get that mission done as soon as you can and declare as soon as you can before anything else, and you'll be good to go. With that, your military is now set up. Now let's talk about your rivals and your diplomatic situation. Now, as far as your rivals are concerned, leave them blank. When you rival somebody, you make it more likely that they ally other people to stop you and to defend against you, and you don't want anybody, especially Bengal, to ally anybody. So just leave them blank. All it's doing is reducing your power projection every year, which, who cares, you have none, and lowering your score, which again, who cares, you have none. So just leave it be. Now, as far as your diplomatic situation, the first person you're going to do anything with is Kalahandi here, who you're going to ally. While they might not seem like the greatest alliance, they absolutely are. You see, here's the thing. After this mission is done, the next one you're going to try and do is right here, which requires that you have 5 subjects. You start with 4. And Kalahandi is, by far, absolutely willing to be diplo-vassalized by you. So what you do is you ally them now. You can diplo-vassalize people even if you are at war, as long as they are not. And by attacking Bengal and during that time improving your relations with Kalahandi, royal marrying them, guaranteeing them, all the other normal things, you're able to vassalize them mid-war. If you can accomplish this, they will then join the war as your vassal, bringing in another 2,000 to 4,000 troops. and all of the manpower that they have, which is very, very nice. So just ally them now so you don't lose it later or you don't forget to later, and that's your first one done. Next, it's time to unpause. The reason why is you're now going to try and get your alliance with Mewar. Mewar is kind of fickle. Sometimes they'll ally you, sometimes they won't. They'll be at like 20 of reasons of 20 and they need 21. So if that happens and you cannot ally them day one, just improve relations with them. It really doesn't matter. This is just an alliance to prevent anybody else from wanting to attack you. But they will usually be willing to ally you. The next ally depends on who rivals you. Usually, Jaunpur will not rival you. Sometimes they do. If they do, just ignore them, and you're going to go for Delhi. In this case, since they didn't rival me, I'm going to start improving relations with them, trying to get them on my side later. The other people that other individuals might want to get as alliances, which you should not do, and I'll explain why, is Batmanis over here and Vijay down here. Both of which are horrible allies. In my about 60 runs of this, neither one of them has ever been useful. I allied one of the two at least 10 times each. Neither one of them was useful at any given point. Batmanis here, they'll expand to the east, taking out Bastar, then Ratanpur, then Patna, and during that, they will decide they want your land and break the alliance, meaning you can't even use them or get enough favors with them, even to get anything out of them. Vijay won't break that alliance with you. The problem is Vijay starts off in a really bad situation that the AI just cannot handle. For whatever reason, they will decide they need to expand, and they will attack somebody down here in the south. The problem with that is, if you look, they're all jungle forts, which means suddenly they're attacking into jungle forts, putting their entire army on that fort, taking massive amounts of attrition, losing all of their manpower, and then finally taking one province. The thing is that they also start off with both pretender rebels about to fire, or usually will, and separatist rebels going to fire, which will annihilate their actual army after they've done this war almost every single time. So within about 5 to 10 years, Vijay will have no army and no manpower, and the only thing that's keeping them alive is whoever allies them. And Batmanis will sometimes attack them not caring. And you don't want to be dragged into a war not able to take anything from Batmanis because you're defending Vijay or taking a prestige hit for that. So don't ally them. They're a liability. What you do instead is let them do their own thing. Either Batmanis will do something dumb and attack somebody over here and take a bunch of attrition, or Vijay will, and then they will attack each other. Once that happens, just attack Batmanis. Even if Batmanis is the one that has all the troops out there, and Vijay does not, Batmanis will focus their entire army on taking out Vijay. Sieging them out, conquering their forts, attacking their armies, while you're up here just chilling, sieging down forts. So by the time they're done with Vijay, you've already taken half their country, taken out their capital, and you're hunting down their troops with probably a 3 to 4 shock general. Meaning you're going to annihilate them. So just slow down, let them do their own thing, let them hang themselves. You just provide the rope. That's all you need to do. Now lastly, if Jaunpur decides to rival you, grab either Delhi or Sirhind, whoever wins out of these two, because by that point, Jaunpur will usually be a rival of yours, and then they will want to help you fight Jaunpur. Now that all of that has been said, it is time to unpause and see if Bengal over here decides to find an ally. It's going to kind of depend, but we shall see. Now, I will say this. There are 2 things I forgot to mention earlier on in the guide, but now seems like a good time while I set my rivals. Namely, I'm going to go ahead and rival Bengal. I don't need another one. That is 2 things. One, there's another privilege that can be useful, and that is over here under Expansionist Zealotry. You are about to fight somebody who is Sunni, and you are Hindu. Meaning that Expansionist Zealotry is going to be useful for you to get that morale bonus. Whether you choose to give it is up to you. Because while you get the morale bonus, which is always nice, at the same time you will be losing 10% equilibrium, meaning you'll have to seize land every time, summon the die every time you seize land. So this is useful, not all the time. So you can grab this now if you feel you need it. If they have an ally, I might do so as well. The other thing is that you do have personal deities as a Hindu tag. Here, I recommend you pick Shiva. The rest of them right now, early game, do nothing for you. Construction costs, nothing. That's not worth it. Discipline doesn't really hurt early game, while the siege ability does. It ain't really that worth it. But attacking a Sunni nation with less aggressive expansion in a sea of Sunni nations and core creation costs when you're taking pretty much the coastline here is definitely going to help save you some admin points. So just grab Shiva for now. It'll be fine. You'll be fine. And you're good to go. Now let's see here. You did not get an ally. Now, they will usually, if they do get an ally, it will be Chagatai. They're like the one that they always ally if they get one. If they do, having that expansion of zealotry will give you enough oomph behind yourself where you'll be able to take them on. They will only outnumber you by about 7,000, and again, you have a 5-shock general with, again, plus 5% morale, meaning you have a definite edge on them, especially if you can catch this 8,000 here. In my instance, I don't think I necessarily need it, but again, as always, why would you ever fight without the advantage? So I'm going to go ahead and take it, even though, yeah, oh, it looks like it'll go the other way. I forgot it flips that way. But either way, just be aware that is available to you. However, it may become a problem later when you are pushing into land that is also Hindi with a Hindi tag, which you're going to be very, very soon. So try and get that done before it becomes a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and fight this, and I'm going to try and get Hindi in on my side. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording while I get this war done. I will see you guys in just a little bit. And welcome back. As you can see, war's over. Time to take what I want. Now, because usually other people will jump on Bengal because they have no army, they have no allies, they have no way of defending themselves. Instead, they attacked other people over here, which is kind of problematic, but I can live with it. So instead of taking my usual, which would be to take this land here and more money, I'd rather have the coast, take a little bit less money, and be able to get into Arakan instead. Basically, usually Arakan will attack Bengal and take this province, and then I can take it from Arakan. Instead, I'm going to have to do it this way and then come back north for Bengal. And with that, I am now done with Bengal, and I'm able to start coring everything up. If you want to go ahead and focus development, you can. It is really up to you. If your mission requires you to dev up, go ahead and do this instead. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and click the button, merging all of my guys together, which should drop my force limit down substantially. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my cavalry because I don't necessarily need them right now. Instead, I'm going to get ready, move forward, and attack the next people that are my target, which in this case, I think are going to be these guys who also usually attack Bengal, take over a bunch of land, and then I can use them as a vassal. In this case, not so much. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, I'm going to go after this guy here because he's weak. Oh, wait, gotta wait. There we go. Yeah, you're not a problem. And go after him, siege him down, and then I'll have another guy there. Patna here is attacking this guy right here, so I'm going to let him take him out, and then full annex the whole lot because I have claims on all of it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording again, probably expand a bit more in places, probably take both of these guys out instead, actually. And I will see you guys once I'm done with the quick expansion here. See you in a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, I expanded quite a bit. I want to say that you might not be able to expand this way. You might only get a province or two. It's still okay. Even if you get none of these provinces, if Batmanis takes all of this land and Jaunpur takes all of this land, which has happened in one of my test runs, because this fort is evil, you can still be fine. The reason why is, while you are fighting somebody that really can't fight back, and with grassland forts, they are sieging down people that have things like jungle forts, which means Batmanis here has no real army left, and 0 manpower. They're not really in any condition to fight anybody. So if they do happen to take all of this land, and they're in this situation, just attack them. VJ will likely attack them too, meaning you're going to roll over them surprisingly easy. On top of the fact that you already have a morale advantage, you'll have more troops, you'll have a 5-shock general, hopefully he's still alive. And even if he's not, you'll probably have a 3-shock one, because your army tradition is not bad. So go ahead, take advantage of that. In this case, I'm probably going to anyway, because he's weak, why not attack him now? But just see if they are available as an opportunity to attack. The next thing to talk about is now that I have grown substantially, there's a weird thing with the game. Namely, I started off in a substantially weaker position, and I hired the free company, which was nice. But now that I'm larger and it made it go, okay, you can hire more mercenaries, I can hire the free company again. There are 2 free companies for me. So hire the first one, and then when you need to and you're about to attack somebody like Botmani's, hire the second one. Because, hey, having extra mercenaries that cost less, always a nice thing. Now, the last thing to talk about here is do not release any vassals that you just conquered. It's better for you to just simply core them up, especially when you have this guy still alive. Here's the thing. Yes, you do have less vassals since they all integrated into one. Yes, you can still attack this guy. But because you are now one of the larger tags of India and the larger tags of Hinduism, you're able to vassalize people. So for no aggressive expansion, you can get Jharkhand here and all of their cores. All of their cores. Meaning you can reconquer things and take less aggressive expansion for it. You can also get this guy over here who doesn't really have anything, but why pay the cost for that? Once you get larger, you'll get other people in the area, from Gorkha and Limbuwan and Kathmandu all the way over here to Kangra and Garhwal. You'll find amazing people that'll just go, you know what, sure, I'll be your vassal. Even over here. So just be sure every time you finish a war and you have open slots available, see if anybody will be willing. If anybody's within about 15 reasons, looking at the diplomatic mode here of offer vassalization. Because if they're close, they will likely accept. And if they accept, suddenly I have new land that I wouldn't have otherwise, which is fantastic. Now, with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get my army on the border because I'm going after Botmani's over here because if they're going to be an easy target, I'm definitely taking that shot. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of Botmani's here. I will see you guys in just a little bit. And welcome back, everybody. So, war's over. I'm tapping out of this. I sieged down the war goal, then I got this fort, and then I basically bounced back and forth. I've killed quite a number of troops. The problem is they just keep hiring more and more and more mercenaries, and it's gotten kind of ridiculous. Now, I was waiting for VJ to go, wait a minute, our great rivals, they're being attacked and losing constantly. Maybe we should jump in and take some land. And they saw this and went, I know what to do. Let's attack the Maldives. So I'm tapping out now. There's no point, and I got what I need. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the last of the claims I have, push through here and get to this province. The rest of it is okay, but not really that important. But this province absolutely is. It is absolutely vital. I want this province immediately. So I'm going to take this. Looks like I can't take any more. Nobody's going to really care, and there we go. Now, why this province, you might ask? Because this province has somebody I can release. Bijapur. So let's go ahead and release them so I can show you why Bijapur is so awesome. See, Bijapur here is close enough to you to easily grab, and they have a bunch of cores on both Bahmanis and Vijay, meaning you can attack either one to get their cores back very, very easily. On top of that, if you go down into Vijay down here, there's another tag, this Madurai down here, where you can get them. They have a bunch of stuff to reclaim too. And this is what you're trying to do. You're basically going to be punching the people down here because pretty much all of this land can be easily reconquered. You have Mysore right here. You have Madurai taking up all of this. You have up here Andhra, so as long as you can take out Andhra without Vijay getting involved, great, you're good there too. And you just have to go back and make sure that no rebels shatter you in the meantime during all of this. Now, since it is now 1454, that means Renaissance is likely spawned. So it is now time to dev it up. Now, I don't want to fall behind in Miltech, but I'm not likely to be fighting anybody for at least a little bit. And this is the time when it's good to go ahead and do it, because you're not really going to need the Miltech, because, again, you're not fighting anybody. You're kind of in the slightly recovery mode. So I'm going to go ahead, clean up the rebels, dev up the institution. I'm probably going to dev it in my capital over here because it's a nice place to dev it up. And I haven't cored anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I will see you guys once I am done. And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, Bengal has continued to have a bad day. You see, if you go through your mission to down here, as long as you become the strongest trade power in Bengal, you then get claims on the rest of Bengal, permanent claims. Here's the thing. Once you dev up the first institution, you're going to be the largest trade power because you're going to have the whole coast. So don't worry about it. You will get there very, very easily. And I've continued to try and vassalize. I got these two guys over here and this guy right here. And now it is time to attack Botmanis to get back all of these guys' cores over here. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready for that. And as you can see, definitely not going to be a fair fight. So yeah, I'm definitely going to go ahead and declare this. So I'm going to go ahead and fight this, and I'm going to retake these cores and probably take this fort so I don't ever have to deal with it again. So I will see you guys in just a bit when I'm done. And welcome back, everybody. So the war is now over. While I did take quite a bit in attrition casualties, they really never stood a chance, and it is now time to peace out. As you can see, I'm taking all of the cores that they have of Bijapur, this province up here, this province here of Chanda, and then the fort here. And there's a definite reason for all of it, and of course, all the money that they have. So let me go ahead and show you basically what I'm doing here. Now, Bijapur, now I just need to get whatever they have Alpha VJ, and I'm done with that. This province right here, it actually has another person I can release, which, as you can see, has a lot of provinces that he can reconquer. On top of that, over here in Chanda, there is Berar, who has also more provinces to conquer, which after reconquering their land will mean that there's only 6 provinces left here that I have to take directly and actually spend admin points on. The rest of it I'm using Diplo. Down here in the south, it depends on whether or not I can get Andhra or not without VJ losing its mind, which in this game I'm probably going to have to fight them both. But for now, time to just send my troops back home and get started on annexing the guys in the north so that I can release more people in the south. So I'm going to go ahead, continue along with this, integrate the guys in the north here because they don't have anything to reconquer anymore and are no more use to me, whereas people in the south still are. And get myself ready to take on VJ because they're the last big target before there's no one left in India that would be any real concern. So I will see you guys in just a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. Now, as you can tell, I am done integrating my northern vassals. I was able to release my first of the 2 in the south. However, I was not able to release Berar because they are apparently not Gandhi culture like I thought. They are instead Marathi, meaning I can't release them out of Chanda. The only ones I can release out of Chanda would be Chanda, which has no other cores. I don't see the point in that, so I have to core it up myself. I just wanted to point that out in case you guys are relying to keep your 2 privileges up here to have a vassal get spawned out of there. Don't rely on it being Berar. You'll have to only use Chanda. Now, because I was not able to release another one, I was able to look for other people to Diplo vassalize, thinking I'd get somebody like Turhut. Now, as I said before, make certain you always look at the end of a war because you never know who might join that list of people that are suddenly willing to become your vassal for nothing. And looking at this, there's some rather large tags, people that aren't normally that large. So one would imagine there might be some that are now too large, or some large tags that might be willing to. They're not up here, the one that I found. Instead, it is Idar, the one province minor that massively expanded somehow is willing just to become my vassal. So now I got all of this territory over here into my domain for no aggressive expansion. On top of that, I still have another slot available, so let's go ahead and find somebody else. Unfortunately, the map doesn't turn green like it does when you're looking for alliances. However, it is still absolutely worthwhile to go in here and just start clicking on the icons here because it will show you who they are, and you may find somebody here that is absolutely worth your time just to grab because they might have multiple provinces in an area that you want to take advantage of. In this case, I'm going to be grabbing Koch over here because why not? That sounds like a very opportune moment to get in and just surround and take out Bengal when I am ready. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to take my army here that now it's gotten slightly larger, build up and get ready to attack Vijayanagar, because they are the ones that I need to take out at this point. I'm able to take on Malwa, because I have some claims on them. But I need to take out VJ because, again, they're really the last big threat. If I can take Andhra, then I'll suddenly have a bunch of cores to get off of them, and then get the ones from Bijapur. And then on top of that, they just took out Madurai, which is a bunch more, and then I have Mysore as well. So I'll have more vassals to get down south once I am prepared to take on VJ. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready for that war. I'm going to fight it, and I'll bring you guys back when it's time to wrap all this together. See you guys soon. And welcome back. As you can see, VJ's having just as bad of a day as Bengal is. You see, they unfortunately looked north just as I pieced out and realized, wait a minute, but Bonnies, you have no army in the field. You just lost half your land. On top of that, you paid 600 ducats and you have no manpower left. And we have a land border. I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of your land, and declared war. Unfortunately for them, I was paying attention, and Batmanis decided if I'm going to be attacked, I'm taking out even more loans and hiring 30,000 worth of mercenaries. Now, I don't know what kind of mercenaries they had, but the 30,000 VJ troops marched north and got slapped so hard they ran all the way back down south 3 times this war. And as you can see, hilarity ensued. I was able to attack Andhra and pretty much occupy without many fights on my part. They only ran into my provinces and then ran back out when my army came back to engage them. They like to run for some reason. But here's the thing. I ended up taking this guy down here as a vassal. The reason why is I figured when I attacked VJ, I'd have a guy in the south that I can't really defend, which would make them attack them, siege them out, why not? It's easy war score. But it is a jungle fort. Not a capital fort, but a real one, which means it'll take a while. Adding to that means that they'll be burning themselves on attrition, and amusingly, they didn't even actually stand on this fort even once during the war. The reason why is they kept going north, thinking Batmanis was the easiest target, and kept getting slapped back hard. So they never really did anything. So in this war, what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to piece them out. I'm going to take all the provinces for my Bijapur vassal. There is a 4th one here, but Batmanis decided to be annoying. I'll get that later. And then I'm going to take Mysore here, and I'm going to give it to that vassal. The reason why is, well, kind of simple. You see, while I don't necessarily need it right now, I have plenty of vassals as it stands, I am going to want it later on in order to release Mysore and feed them their cores back. So in the meantime, my guy down here can take it and core it up, and then I'll release from that later. And I'll take whatever money I can get, and that's that gone, and then I'll full annex Andhra over here, because that's the whole point of this. To take them out, to immediately turn back around and re-release them, because they have a bunch of cores worth taking out of VJ, which you can see right here. Now it's simply time to chill out. There's not a whole lot of conquest I can go on. I need to recover my manpower a little bit, though I can always go after Malwa now if I really wanted to. But I need to start improving my relations with my guys and start annexing people. Bijapur is the first target. Now, I wanted to talk briefly about ideas and the future of what you're going to be trying to do. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a little bit. So I think the best way to wrap up this guide is to get into the underlying rationale and mechanics that kind of undergird what you're doing. Because once you understand the rationale and the mechanics, it makes a lot of sense on what you're doing. And once that makes sense, you can then apply that to your own game and the situation you find yourself in. Because while you watch me play for 40 years, you're not going to be in the same position that I was in at any given time, except for the start of the game. So let's go ahead and explain the why, because once you understand the why, you can then adapt and make yourself a better U4 player, as well as have a better time with Orissa. So, fundamentally, what you are doing is you are using Diplo power to expand, more than you are using admin. You're using both, but you're primarily going to be using Diplo power for a very long time. So, why? Simply put, there are 3 main advantages to using Diplo power to expand over admin points. First off, it is simply the cost. Second, the availability of cores, especially in southern India. And then lastly, the economic benefit. Let's first talk about the cost. It's pretty simple to understand. At the start of the game, it costs 10 admin points per development point to core a province. Meaning, the more development it has, the more it'll cost an admin. Makes sense. The thing is that to diplo-annex something, it only costs 8. So unless you have reduction somewhere, it's better off for you to diplo-annex somebody because you'll spend less monarch power. Now, diplo power long term is generally going to be more useful to you than admin. Early on, they're kind of equal though. So using that diplo power early doesn't really harm you so long as you balance it with your tech. Don't fall too far behind in your tech because that's going to be equally problematic. Let's move on though to the availability of cores, because you'll find this in Europe, you'll find this in Africa, you'll find this in Asia, and India and South in particular. You see, in this region of India, there are either tags that are about to be conquered, meaning you can release them in a war, or they are tags built up of other tags. And Batmanis is by far the best example of this. See, Batmani starts off with about 30 to 40 provinces. I don't remember the exact count. However, in reality, there's only 4 provinces you can't reconquer out of them. That is, these 4. These 4 provinces are only their cores. Everything else includes somebody else's core. Even these 2 between these 4 are actually somebody else's core. Namely, their starting vassal has a core on these 2 provinces. Then you have Bijapur, which has about 1/3 of their provinces. This guy who has about 7 in total. And then Berar up here, who has 5. Meaning, you can reconquer almost all of Batmanis and only have to conquer directly 4 provinces. Vijay is really similar. You see, you have Madurai down here, which has most of the south. You have Mysore over here, which has another giant chunk of the mid. And then you have Andhra here, who has even the top northern part. Meaning, in terms of Vijay and the starting provinces that they have about 6 provinces. Then they have all the stuff over here that they've just conquered from other people, which, again, you can release if you want, though it's easier just to reconquer or conquer that directly. But if they don't expand, it does not take much at all to conquer Vijay. Now, let's talk about the true economic benefits of this, because understanding that will help people understand when you want to reconquer and use tags to do it versus conquering directly. Because you do pay a huge economic cost conquering things directly, especially if you're trying to use it to advance early game. You see, when you conquer something directly, you have to pay a price. And Warangal here, I conquered directly, so let's go ahead and take a look. As you can see, while I have no unrest, I have 8 separatism. In other words, for 16 years, this province is going to have increased unrest. And you can see it's barely below 0. Meaning if I make them mad, they can rebel, and suddenly I have to fight rebels, which I might not want to do at that given moment. I might be in a war. So, separatism is a penalty you'll have to pay. The other one, however, is right here, this autonomy. When you conquer somebody, you're going to start off with about 75% autonomy, if you make it into a full state. If you don't, it's just 90%. However, Bijapur here, I conquered recently from Batmanis. It started off with just 1 province over here, but I had then just conquered Bijapur within about 10 years. Their autonomy is 0. Their unrest, separatism, is 0. When I integrate them, their unrest, separatism, will be 0, and their autonomy will still be 0. You see, when you integrate a vassal, you do not gain autonomy that way. When you do that, you also don't suddenly get separatism either. Only if their rebels spawn and siege a province down will you get separatism in provinces you diplomatically annexed. On top of that, let's say if I take this province from Batmanis, they have a claim on it, so I give it to them, they core it up, they have separatism just like Warangali over here. That means suddenly they have rebel problems, and then I diplomatically annex them. When you diplomatically annex, even if they have separatism, you get the province without separatism. So it is advantageous for you to get all these cores out of Batmanis and then feed the last few provinces to your vassal right before you diplomatically annex them. Because that way, you have no separatism. You'll still have whatever the autonomy happens to be, so it'll still be bad for you economically, but at least you won't have to worry about rebels running around, making it a lot easier for you to conserve that manpower, to keep your wars of expansion going, to keep fighting people, and on top of that, just make yourself stronger long term. The only downside is you won't be fighting rebels, so you have to make sure your army tradition doesn't go too low, because you're not constantly fighting rebels spawning everywhere. But I think that's worth that price. I don't know about you. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that you're not just using your diplomatic annexation down here. You're going to be using it elsewhere. Specifically, once you become the strongest tag in India and you've taken out both Batmanis and Vijay and pretty much own southern India, you become pretty much one of the strongest tags, if not the strongest tag in the game. Especially once Ming explodes, and they almost always explode. Once that happens, everybody over here except for Ayutthaya is terrified of you. Once that happens, everybody except for those that have their own tributaries or their own subjects will generally accept vassalization. Now, if you attack into this area directly, you gain so much aggressive expansion, you probably couldn't get past Ava right here without triggering a coalition. Using diplo-vassalization and annexation, I've taken out everything save for Pegu here and Ayutthaya beyond. I've even gotten Dali out of they've been released out of Ming to become my vassal voluntarily from this kind of distance. It becomes insanely easy to expand this way, meaning you can keep using your aggressive expansion, pushing west, pushing into the Americas, pushing wherever you want to go, and still expand on your own just using diplomacy. And I highly recommend you do so. Now, if you are going to be going for the Orissa achievement, just to talk about this, which requires you to own or have a subject own all of the tropical wood in the world. That means you're going to have to not only take out India and Southeast Asia and Indonesia, and a little bit of China, you're going to have to go up to Japan too, as well as Africa and even into South America. You have to expand a lot. You're going to want to have colonialism at some point just to get yourself at least a foothold in the area. So you're going to eventually have to have exploration. However, I wouldn't recommend getting it too early. What I would recommend, just to make your life easier, is influence ideas and then admin ideas, because those two combined will make it insanely cheap to diplo-annex people. Add in the focus of development, the concentrate development, and you can generally get these tags in to your country with very little cost. So it's up to you how you choose to do this. I just wanted to point out, while you need to have exploration to get to that point, you may want to go expansion early to get Indonesia down and Southeast Asia down, and then only get exploration to start and try and get basically the far western coast of America and use that as a launch point into the remainder of America. Now that all of that has been said, that is the guide, and you guys should be more than capable of having tons of fun with Orissa, conquering half the planet if you're going for the achievement, but more importantly, dominating India and having a really fun game just playing the massive power broker in a region with no one really able to challenge you for a very long time until suddenly the Europeans arrive, because they will arrive in force at some point. Now, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll definitely be making more of it. However, if you want to see different kind of content like a Let's Play or something along those lines, let me know. I'm looking for other content to make because it'll be easier for me to make content I don't have to review 60 times to make certain it's the best strategy for you guys. So let me know what you want me to do. I will definitely consider making it. With all of that said though, thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day.